Hello, my beautiful blossoms, blooms, and buds. I'm Rosebud Reads, and welcome to my book garden. Welcome also to Thousand Autumns, Book 5, Part 6. So, our second part of extras, which I'm very excited about because we have some interesting ones. But also just because I have some interesting stuff that's come, and I am super excited to share it with you all. Hi, Gigi Kiki, welcome. How are you doing tonight? I know I'm doing pretty good. I got some stuff done, and that's why I'm a little late. I have some lovely tea in front of me because it's been a little extra cold today. Hello, Annika. How are you doing? Sorry, I know that's probably coming across kind of loud on the microphone. But I am doing really good today. I'm very excited for my birthday this weekend. So I actually have some stuff that I kind of gifted myself for my birthday, and it got here just in time. So I'm very excited to share a little bit of that with you guys. No, I totally get it. Thank you. No, I'm super excited. I mean, not like I'm doing anything too crazy. I'm going to have some nice food with family and go get like the couple free things that some of the places give out on your birthday. So I'll go get my birthday Starbucks. I'll go one of the places, I guess Miniso, does free blind box on your birthday. So I'm going to go hit them up. All that. Hello, Truffle, and thank you. Yeah, just good food, good people. And I'm a little late because I actually ended up cleaning the bathrooms today, so I wouldn't have to do it this weekend. And it took a little extra longer than I was expecting. So, my bad. Let me pop this up over here. Make sure I'm not going to spill my water or tea, because that would not be good, especially with what I have here. Pop the tea over here. Okay, that should do it. Okay. Finishing intro, and then so Miniso, which I guess just opened up around me. Apparently they have a policy, if you register for their membership, which is free, and put in your birthday, you'll be able to get a blind box on your birthday, which I was like, sweet. Wait a minute. Maybe Daiso might do that. I regret to report that my local half-price books is now setting traps for me. Oh, you're going to have to elaborate on that, Truffle. Is it also your pre-birthday, Annika? If so, happy birthday. Logistics. I do not own anything. I am not sponsored. The only thing that I own is the physical copy behind me. Oh, Chichikiki pre-birthday. Happy birthday, Chikiki. Hello, Cookie-licious. It's been a while. How are you? Oh, Heaven Official's blessing Manhwa this time. Last time it was Husky and his white cat, too. Yeah, they're starting to pop up places. Happy pre-birthday, Chichikiki. February birthday buddies. Let's go. Trying to think what else. Oh, this is a chill stream. I think you probably know that by now, but just in case, I like to mention it. That means I will be talking to my lovely, lovely chat, which actually I have post where it's what should we do, and so far it looks like Book Garden is winning. But I'm gonna leave it up for the weekend And we will see if Book Garden or Flower Garden wins for what I shall call my chat. So make sure to vote if you have not done so already. Yeah, I would also be very excited if I found Danmei at a discount bookstore. But yes, it has been a while. I've been busy with college, but now I have a semester break. I am doing great. I'm excited that you were able to join us again. Ooh, very nice truffle. I'm glad you were able to save some money and that they were in good shape. Chapeau Lang, really? That's a little more of an obscure one, so that's kind of exciting. Very nice. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with some of the surprises that I have that I'm very excited about. It's going to be a little longer of an intro, so I apologize to anyone who wanted to get like right into the story. It's going to be a little more chat time today. But this is something I'm just happy that arrived today. So this is Kictor and Stitch. They are fundraising for their honeymoon. And my sticker got here today. I was very happy and excited to contribute a little bit to that and also just have my sticker. But they are adorable and I love them. And they're part of the reason why I actually had the courage to start this. Kictor gave me some really cool advice and some help. And I am very grateful to them. Now, I got some fun things from AliExpress that actually arrived today. There was a little stress with the second item that I'm going to mention, but here's the one that arrived first. And if you know, you know. And I will not apologize. I will not apologize. And yes, it will go in one of my Eda bags. This is actually official merch too. The pattern. I'm not quite sure if this pin itself is actually official because I think the other one's supposed to be shiny. But the pattern is actually one of the things that they decided, yes, we are making a pin of this. And thus I had to go on a search for it. Yes. Yep. The other thing I splurged on was 3 different boxes. Thank you, Jason. We're going through some of the things I kind of splurged on for my birthday and nerdiness. But yeah, so the first one is this box. So I've collected Modao Zushi cards before, but this seller actually had a couple of varieties that I haven't seen before. So I'm super excited. I got a box of 3 of them. This box actually really is exciting because it had some other of the characters. Whoops. So I'm super excited about that. And then there's this one. So I thought it would be fun to open up one from each, and I might make kind of I'm debating on if I'll do like an opening video like this weekend or something, or if I'll just open them and show off the cards on Tuesday. We'll see what happens, how this weekend goes. I'm going to do my best not to wreck these boxes because they're absolutely gorgeous. There was also like a red New Year's box that I thought I bought, but it's not here, so I guess I didn't. But you never know. There's always time in the future. I am trying to be slightly better about Danmei finds, but my birthday's different. That's a little. I'm trying to slightly prepare for con season without breaking the bank. I'm trying to open this box without ripping anything, and I succeeded. All right. So there's some packs. I'm going to pick right from the middle. This one's calling to me. This one right here is calling to me. So this will be from this box. This one. Open the next box. Yeah. All my mini dolls. If you can't treat yourself on your birthday, when can you? Absolutely. But I found these at like a ridiculously good price. I think like each box was like $20, which is not bad. So I couldn't resist at that price. Yeah. Okay. Oh, maybe these are the New Year's cards because they're lucky red. Okay, so we're going to dig deep. Yeah. No, it's so going to be a worth it box set. Okay, so this is the yellow box. And then I might just do I'm super excited that I'm able to keep the boxes relatively intact. Gentle. Oh my gosh, they have little Yanli on the inside of this one. So cute. Little Yanli. So cute. Thickened and exquisite collection card? What? Okay. Hang on, let me turn off that. So, all right. So I'm lying. I'm gonna open 3 for this box because I guess there's exquisite cards in here that are like a bonus. You'd be amazed at anime fans, like how the level of dedication. Okay. I'm going to move these lovely, lovely boxes over here. All right. So I'm super intrigued about the vintage card thing, so we're going to open those last. But we'll go this one first. All right. Okay. All right. So kind of like the other set, they have buildings. Okay, so these are kind of thicker thicker cards, like cardboard. And they're gorgeous. So I guess they're like print cards. Interesting. So I guess they'll do like a scene and then 2 print cards per pack for that set, which will be interesting to see. Like, I'll probably end up looking up these and being like, all right, what's possible in these? So this is the next one I'll open. Okay, these are also thick. Okay, so the back of the cards, the other ones have been blue, like a different shade of blue, but they were all, oh, I was wrong. Okay, so These are the first ones I opened. So the back is red with the blue. This is a different blue and green, but the same sort of feel to it. Oh! Okay, so here's the first one. It's holographic. Super, super rare. Nice. I'm not sure if... I think this one is actually supposed to be Wen Ning, because I see the chains, but it's a different design that I've never seen this sort of design for Wen Ning. So it's intriguing. It could be Naiminjue. Maybe. I just didn't think he had the chains. Could be. It definitely gives more Naiminjue than Wen Ning, for sure. This one's just really cute. Baby. Babies. Yeah, it looks too thick to be Wen Ning. I could see that. I'll probably end up researching these. Okay. I'm going to open this one first, and then the like vintage thickened and exquisite collection card. Exquisite card series that came with this as, I guess, like an extra. Okay, so again, it's this one. Okay. Ooh, the backs of these ones are fancy. Look at this. So pretty. Okay, I've seen some of these designs. Okay, not this one. This one is interesting holographic. So you got sassy Wei Ying. Beautiful husbands. Ultra rare. Like how they made the ribbon and accents holographic. And then I've actually seen this one before, this design. It was in the first card set. These are also all like thick cardboard. So I'm very interested now to see these. Okay, so I guess maybe it's a higher chance of getting the special ones. So, Wei Ying, Jin Zixuan, and our beautiful boys. Yes, that was a Qing. All right, here's the other one. Oh boy, I got doubles. Yo. Okay. No, I think that's Jin Zixuan. Yo. I am super excited about this one. Perfect. So pretty. So happy about that one. I mean, these two are gorgeous. Of course, I got a double. Of course. But yeah. What I'll probably do is I'll probably just sort them and then just do like a here's what's up on Tuesday. Or just do a picture post in the community page. We'll see. Okay. No, those are so fun. I'm going to have a lot of fun with these. He is very pretty. This card, I haven't seen this design of him before, so that was very exciting. The fan is new. Sure. Yeah, I can link the shop. I'll probably end up doing it the same way I linked the mat shop, just in the note telling you what shop I got it from. Because that's like the only way I know how to do it. With Shopify, where I usually buy stuff like this, but I will link it like that. Yeah, no worries, Truffle. Okay. And on that note, I'm going to take a sip of hopefully not scalding tea. Yay. And then let's get started. I need to turn on my heating pad, then we can get started. Okay. So last time we were having some shenanigans in the Chen Kingdom. Oh, I should probably mark down the time. 21:30. Okay. So last time we had Yan Wushi pretending to be a Taoist in the Lord of Chen's palace, and immortality, basically. That is his goal. And all that. And then a woman walked out as she's no. Suddenly Yan Wushi chuckled. Ah, Qiao, do you understand now why I don't think much of southern Chen? Shen Qiao didn't have the chance to respond before someone else did. I didn't realize that sect leader Yan and esteemed Taoist master Shen had graced us with your presence. We've been remiss with our welcome. Please forgive us. A woman walked out as she spoke these words, surrounded by a great number of maidservants. The Lord of Chen paled and quickly rose, putting his hands together. Greetings, Mother Empress! The newcomer was Chen Dynasty's Empress Dowager Liu Jingyan, Ruyan Kehui shimei. So that's where we ended. Let's just go ahead and jump into it. Epilogue, Part 6. Though Liu Jingyan was the Empress Dowager, she wasn't a lady who'd been sheltered in the women's chambers, ignorant of the outside world. She came from an illustrious background and had entered Linshuan Academy when young. Linshuan Academy's rock-solid standing within southern Chen these years was due in no small part to Liu Jingyan's efforts. Back when Yuan Qing and company had traveled to the southern dynasty with the Alliance Treaty, Yan Wushi and Ruyan Kehui had fought a duel. Liu Jingyan had left the palace in disguise then, so she naturally recognized Shen Qiao and Yan Wushi. She'd been busy helping the emperor with managing court affairs when news came of the emperor summoning a group of Taoists. Caught off guard, she quickly rushed over to intervene. Shen Qiao had exploited this favorable situation and slipped in with the rest simply for the purpose of meeting Chen Shu Bao. He didn't possess any ulterior motives, but having his identity exposed still caused him some embarrassment. This humble Taoist came here without any ill intentions. I've been terribly rude. I beg your highness's forgiveness. He was willing to continue explaining, but Yan Wushi said nothing. He simply sat there, completely at ease. It was as if, to him, there was no difference between a lavish palace and a crude commoner's house. Liu Jingyan could demonstrate her displeasure with the Lord of Chen, but she couldn't speak so bluntly to Shen Qiao and Yan Wushi. Not only did she show no anger, she even returned Shen Qiao's greeting with the decorum of an Empress Dowager, warm and gentle. Esteemed Taoist Master Shen is too courteous. Despite how busy he was willing to spare the time to instruct my son. That is my son's great fortune. She couldn't address Shen Qiao as sect leader. For one thing, it would make Chen's lack of hospitality clear. For another, the fact that Shen Qiao and Yan Wushi were here, yet Chen had been caught unawares, would be terribly embarrassing for them. Liu Jingyan, choosing to call him esteemed Taoist master instead, another address that demonstrated great respect for Shen Qiao, was a very wise decision. She then said to Yan Wushi, sect leader Yan is a grand master of his generation, and an incredibly important person, while Taoist Master Shen is also of extraordinary character and prestige, revered by everyone. My son is too blind to recognize Mount Tai, and so he was unable to receive you two with the proper courtesy and neglected you. I ask our honored guests not to hold it against us. I'll make reparations on his behalf. Everyone had already been surprised to see the lofty Empress Dowager acting so polite towards Yan Wushi and Shen Qiao. When they heard their identities, they were completely stunned. Most of all, Chen Shu Bao. By now, he had of course realized that he'd been tricked. Fury exploded through him, turning his face bright red. These scoundrels concealed their identities and deceived the Emperor. Why does the Mother Empress treat them with such courtesy? Where are the guards? Seize them at once! Anger immediately rose to Liu Jingyan's face. No one dare make a move. With the Emperor and Empress Dowager's orders contradicting each other, the guards all looked at each other, trapped in their dilemma. Some of them had already begun to move, and now their feet were frozen mid-step. It was terribly awkward. Yan Wushi stood, sneering. Empress Dowager Liu is any man's equal. No wonder my venerable self once heard that the previous academy master of Linchuan Academy had intended on giving his mantle to you. But then you married into the imperial palace, and that's how Ruyan Kehui got his hands on the position so easily. Looking at things now, if you'd succeeded in Linchuan Academy instead, perhaps their influence would have already spread far and wide through the Jianghu, to permeate even the northern court and suppress Buddhism instead of dragging their feet in the southern dynasty like today. Liu Jingyan knew very well that these were words of provocation, yet no anger showed in her expression. She even smiled. I'm grateful for sect leader Yan's concern, but Ruyan Shixian's martially more skilled than I am, and he's more learned as well. Hence, it was only natural that he succeeded the Academy Master's position and promote Confucianism to greater heights. I've already ordered my servants to prepare a banquet in another palace. If the two of you don't mind, might I trouble you to accommodate them, nor did she castigate them for entering the palace in disguise. Shen Qiao was unwilling to make things difficult for her, so before Yan Wushi could say anything unpleasant, he replied, Then we will be troubling the Empress Dowager. The Lord of Chen leapt to his feet. Mother Empress! These two treated the imperial palace as their own playground, somewhere they can enter and leave as they please. How can you let them off so easily? Yan Wushi didn't even spare him a glance. Instead, he smiled at Liu Jingyan and said, My venerable self met the late Emperor Cheng Shu once. He knew the right time to make the right moves and was a ruler who carried forward the accomplishments of his predecessors. The parents are both dragons and phoenixes, yet the son they birthed was so mediocre. They say that a tiger cannot be the parent of a dog. It's truly not to, they say a tiger cannot be the parent of a dog. It's truly not to be trusted. I'm going to guess that's saying, like, even if the parents are great, that doesn't guarantee that the kid is going to be great, etc., etc. Chen Shubao was the great and lofty emperor. Hearing Yan Wushi rebuke him to his face, he instantly flew into a rage. How presumptuous! Imperial guards, seize them! This was the second order from the emperor. The imperial guards dared not hesitate any further. They came forward and surrounded Yan Wushi and Shen Qiao both, weapons in hand. Seeing this, the Taoist priests who'd originally been sitting near Shen Qiao and Yan Wushi dared not get involved, lest they be seen as rebels. They fled one after another, terrified that they'd end up as collateral damage. But as things happened in a blur, everyone had yet to react properly when those guards who'd rushed Shen Qiao and Yan Wushi were sent sprawling across the floor before they could even blink. Weapons clattered to the ground, and shouts of pain rose and fell. Meanwhile, Shen Qiao and Yan Wushi had remained completely motionless, calm and composed in whatever they were doing. The sleeves of their clothes didn't so much as tremble. Liu Jingyan really couldn't take it anymore. She said coldly, His Majesty hasn't fully recovered and should spend more time resting. How could His Majesty be allowed to hear such stressful words? Guards, send these Taoist priests out of the palace. She wanted to say, expel them from the palace, but on second thought, Shen Qiao was also a Taoist, and she didn't want any misunderstandings with him, so she chose to be more courteous. Only now did Chen Shubao realize that whom he'd once considered his finest soldiers were completely insignificant before the martial arts of the Jianghu. Ruyan Kehui had taught him since he was young, but since he was the future emperor, no one had thought that he ought to pursue martial arts and become a master within the Jianghu. Besides, Chen Shubao was more interested in artistic pursuits. Hence, though there were many excellent martial artists around him, he had been completely disconnected from the Jianghu. However, the once distant Jianghu now suddenly seemed very close at hand. He watched his mother expel the Taoist priests, then invite Shen Qiao and Yan Wushi to leave with her. Yan Wushi hadn't paid him any heed whatsoever, yet his own mother had never sought out his opinion at all. Instead, she'd completely disregarded his dignity as an emperor. Would your Majesty like to return to Chenxiang Hall? An attendant came forward and timidly asked. Chen Shubao shot him a look. Go! Why aren't you going? Dare you defy the Empress Dowager? The attendant didn't dare speak. Bring me some wine, said Chen Shubao. I wish to compose a song and choreography. Won't be able to write anything without wine. The attendant awkwardly said, But the Empress Dowager... Chen Shubao's stare cut him off, and he didn't dare to speak any further. All right, I'm going to say that's definitely a count for injustice to service workers because he's just trying to do his job. So that's going to be a tally right there, and we have 5, 10, 15, 20, 24, and only one justice to service workers. Are you my subordinate or the Empress Dowager's? If you're that loyal to her, why not go and become her lackey instead? The attendant quickly... Yeah, that's the first one for this book. The attendant quickly replied several times that he didn't dare, then withdrew in a hurry to look for wine. Meanwhile, Liu Jingyan had invited the two into a spare and separate palace. The fine wines and delicacies had already been prepared. She dismissed her maids, but they hesitated to leave. Liu Jingyan smiled at them. Sect leader Yan and esteemed Taoist master Shen are both so powerful that killing me would be simpler than snuffing out a candle. They need not wait until now and use such an underhanded tactic. You may leave. Once the maids had left, Liu Jingyan said, "My son lacks manners. I've embarrassed myself before the two of you. What important reason did you have for entering the palace today? If it's something even a woman like me can assist with, please tell me, and I will lend all the help that I can." "This humble Taoist has indeed wandered here from the north and is currently staying at Baiman Monastery," Qiao replied. "He just happened to see His Majesty summoning Taoists to the palace, and out of curiosity, he accompanied them into the palace. That was all. The Empress Dowager need not worry about it so much. We harbor no ill intent." Liu Jingyan was a little surprised. Considering their extraordinary statuses, she'd been certain that they'd entered the palace with some objective in mind. "So it's like that," she said. "Is it the same for sect leader Yan, then?" "If I wanted to kill Chen Shubao," said Yan Wushi, "I wouldn't have needed to wait until now." Liu Jingyan also smiled slightly. "If anyone else said such words, I might not believe them, but I fully believe sect leader Yan, for who in the world is able to match him?" Yeah, basically, they did, Annika. They did just come for the lulz. "I heard that sect leader Yan defeated Hulagu on Bamboo Peak, a momentous event for our Central Plains. I am full of deep admiration for sect leader Yan and only regret that my identity prevented me from witnessing it in person. Now I have the fortune to meet you, so please accept this wine as a token of my respect." She watched as Yan Wushi raised his cup. Though he didn't drink, this action also expressed his attitude, so she finally relaxed. Yeah, he's got that thing about not drinking or eating with people he doesn't trust, which, I mean, after you pissed off as many people as he did, like, it's not a bad habit. Though those Taoists just now weren't knowledgeable. Oh, wait, that's Shen Qiao. Though those Taoists just now weren't knowledgeable about the classics and of insufficient learning, they didn't do anything immoral or unethical, Shen Qiao said. They only entered the palace for an audience with the emperor out of their profound admiration for him. So I ask the Empress Dowager to please spare their lives this time on my humble self's behalf. This incident happened because of the emperor, said Liu Jingyan. I'm very much aware of this myself, and I won't scapegoat the innocent. The esteemed Taoist Master Shen should be at ease. She then sighed. The emperor was born inside the palace and has never experienced any hardships. Instead, he clings to luxuries and pleasures, completely uninterested in national affairs. Neither I nor the late emperor expected this. We've really shown you something laughable this time. She was being so reasonable and understanding that Shen Qiao actually felt somewhat guilty. He consoled her. His Majesty is brilliantly talented. It's only that he's too young, so he's unwilling to turn his mind to the right path. If he receives proper guidance, he might suddenly turn his mind to the right path. If he receives proper guidance, he might suddenly perform amazing feats. When a bird song that's been quiet all its life begins to sing, it is sure to astound everyone. Those words clearly struck at the core of Liu Jingyan's thoughts, for she suddenly said, If someone like the esteemed Taoist Master Shen could accompany the emperor, I would be completely at ease. Shen Qiao was about to answer when Yan Wushi took the chance instead. The Chen Dynasty already has the Confucian discipline, he said coolly. Ruyan Kehui sees this little territory of his as his greatest treasure. No one else can step in. Shen Qiao is soft-hearted. Your Excellency should keep your esteemed thoughts to yourself. His words had stabbed right into her thoughts, leaving Liu Jingyan a little embarrassed. Yet she didn't grow angry and instead maintained her warm expression. I was too forward. I ask the two of you to forgive me. You're clever, said Wushi. You continue to cling to the common views of this world, but I find you much more agreeable to the eye compared to Ruyan Kehui. Yeah. A little bit of ow, yes, truffle. I mean, coming from Wushi, though, the second part before that, like, that's actually pretty nice of him, coming from him. So, I'd definitely take that as a compliment from Wushi. Liu Jingyan smiled. I'm grateful for sect leader Yan's favor. She knew that though she was an Empress Dowager, the other party had no need to be careful about her feelings. Thus, she'd adjusted her attitude and reactions, and to an impressive extent. That's a very odd way to word that. That's a very odd way to word that sentence. Thus, she'd adjusted her attitude and reactions, and to an impressive extent. I would have worded that differently. Those who walk different paths must go their own separate ways. The three of them didn't have much to talk about, so Shen Qiao took the initiative to bid her farewell. Liu Jingyan didn't persuade him to stay. Instead, she personally escorted the two of them to the gates, then had her personal handmaidens take them out of the palace, telling them to be respectful and courteous. In the end, Liu Jingyan said, The two of you are guests of honor. The next time you wish to enter the palace, you can have the guards notify me. I'll come receive you with the utmost courtesy. If you hide your identities like this again, you'll be treated unfairly. You don't have to test us, said Wushi. My venerable self only entered the palace this time to look for someone. Since I've already found him, I naturally won't come here again. Liu Jingyan looked confused. Who was this person you were looking for? Wushi suddenly laughed. Other than Taoist Master Shen Qiao, who else in the entire Chen Palace would be worth me looking for them? Shen Qiao couldn't help but add a few words. Sect leader Yan and I went our separate ways in Funing County. He traveled south looking for me, and he must have heard outside the palace that Taoists were being summoned into the palace. Knowing that I would attend, he entered as well to investigate the situation. We never expected that we'd disturb the Empress Dowager like this. We beg your forgiveness. The esteemed Taoist master is too courteous, said Liu Jingyan. Since that's the case, I won't get in the way of your reminiscence. Sect leader Yan, esteemed Taoist Master Shen, goodbye. Until we meet again. Though she hadn't interacted much with Wushi in the past, she also heard that he was an arrogant and egotistical man. Seeing him today, she could tell that reputation was truly deserved. In contrast, Shen Qiao was very polite and restrained. Only after saying a few more pleasantries to Liu Jingyan did he finally take his leave. Outside the palace, Wushi again went back to mostly ignoring Shen Qiao. Helpless, Shen Qiao could only quicken his pace to catch up to him. Did you really enter the palace to look for me? Wushi didn't speak. How can you be so sure that I'd visit the palace? Wushi continued to ignore him. Feeling helpless, Shen Qiao had no choice but to grab his sleeve. Wushi, I have something I need to say to you. By now, the two of them had already arrived at the city moat. The willow leaves swayed in the air, green and tender, looking like clusters of dangling jasper. Ripples dimpled the moat's surface. It was truly a lovely, balmy day. The two men were dressed in Taoist robes, their faces the picture of handsome beauty. Who knew how many young maidens' eyes were drawn to them, their gazes affectionate and full of yearning? Unfortunately for them, these two Taoist masters didn't bother glancing back even once. Yan Wushi finally responded to Shen Qiao. He stopped his steps, then pretended to be confused. Was Taoist Master Shen calling me? Yes. Then say it, said Yan Wushi. Afterward, I need to get on my way. Where are you going? Asked Shen Qiao. Say what you wanted to say first. Shen Qiao was rather self-conscious. Even if those thoughts had churned within his heart hundreds of thousands of times, the moment they made it to his tongue, he could never spit them out. So instead, he could only change the topic. He looked left and right, and then said hesitantly, There are so many people here. It's not a good place to talk. Can we speak elsewhere? Yan Wushi's face revealed his impatience. If you're not saying anything, I'm leaving. Don't give in to him, Shen Qiao. Make him grovel. Then he turned right around and left. Shen Qiao rushed to grab his hand. You stay right there. Shen Qiao couldn't see due to the angle, but the corner of Yan Wushi's mouth lifted slightly. But this hint of a smile instantly vanished without a trace. When he looked back, he was frowning. Shen Qiao kept his head lowered for a long time before he finally tossed out a sentence. Have you been doing well? Yan Wushi was silent. This question didn't feel right, so Shen Qiao thought long and hard before trying again. Do you enjoy eating tangren? Yan Wushi gave a cold laugh. Shai Ling does. Then he turned and made to leave again. Sure enough, Shen Qiao had misspoken again. He struggled helplessly with himself, knowing his feelings were one thing, but saying them out loud, no matter what, he couldn't do it. He gritted his teeth, then simply dragged Yan Wushi away. He strode quickly until they found a small and deserted alley. Yan Wushi didn't put up any resistance and let Shen Qiao drag him there. However, his face grew a little bit colder. I helped extricate you from a predicament in the palace, he said. This is how Taoist Master Shen repays me. What do you mean, extricate? It's obvious that you wanted to enter the palace to watch the show yourself. Shen Qiao leveled this silent criticism at him, then made up his mind. He cupped Yan Wushi's face without a second word, then lightly pecked him on the mouth, no more than a dragonfly's touch upon the water. Yan Wushi's expression froze, and all at once that cold severity he'd purposely condensed there dissipated like smoke. I think we're about to have a picture soon. Hang on. 49:15. Epilogue, Part 7. Shen Qiao had been about to push him away, but then the arm on his waist tightened, and his entire body was spun around. The next instant, he was pinned against the nearby stone wall. Yan Wushi naturally wouldn't give him any chance to fight back. They were pressed tightly together, so close that their shadows on the ground had merged into one. Shen Qiao had yet to realize what was going on when his legs were forcibly spread a single leg of Yan Wushi's now locked tightly in between them, leaving Shen Qiao unable to move. Shen Qiao instantly felt himself baffled. He suddenly felt like he'd been a bit too impulsive, but it was too late now. Yan Wushi used his lips and tongue to silence Shen Qiao's words, swallowing every noise he made. These deeply invasive actions made him blush all the way to his ears. It was like Yan Wushi had tasted some sublime dish. His tongue was plunged madly into Shen Qiao's mouth, staking his ownership. Then he slowed his movements as if he were taking his time to savor the food, thoroughly enjoying this delicacy down to its very essence. In comparison to Shen Qiao, Yan Wushi obviously had a far vaster repertoire of experience. Perhaps it was because he had been through all sorts of ups and downs in life that he'd been able to slowly but surely strengthen his position. He'd meticulously planned his strategy until, at last, Shen Qiao had been lured into delivering himself to his door, allowing him to claim this delicacy for himself, inside and out. Now that he sampled it, its flavor naturally became even more arresting, its taste lingering and unforgettable. So many food metaphors. He pried open Shen Qiao's lips and teeth, grasping the other man's jaw in his hand as he heartily swirled his tongue around inside his mouth. After Shen Qiao's initial confusion finally lifted, he began to follow the movements of Shen Qiao's tongue, clumsily trying to mimic him. However, Yan Wushi didn't give him any chance to learn or follow his example. There was a slight hint of malice as he decisively withdrew, then changed to biting on Shen Qiao's chin. He suckled gently with the tip of his tongue before slowly moving downward. As his mouth explored, so did his hands. You forgot how embarrassing this part is. Imagine you're the one reading it, Truffle. As his mouth explored, so did his hands. The hand that had originally been grasping Shen Qiao's wrists, pinning him to the wall, began to caress Shen Qiao with thumb and forefinger, playing with him and lingering in sensitive spots. Due to practicing martial arts, the joints of Shen Qiao's hands were clear and well-defined, but not bony enough to jab. Instead, they felt like a sculpture carved from the loveliest of mutton-fat jade, smooth and silky, though a tad warmer than an actual jade sculpture. It was a truly priceless treasure that even thousands of gold coins wouldn't be able to purchase. Yan Wushi's hand slid into one wide sleeve of Shen Qiao's robe and began to make its way up, all the way until it reached his elbow, where he grabbed it. His other hand caressed and fondled along Shen Qiao's waist, yet without wrinkling his clothes at all. His actions were truly beyond description. Shen Qiao, someone who lacked any experience with worldly affairs whatsoever, was provoked and teased until his face flushed crimson. The corners of his eyes sparkled with tears, and his entire body had fallen limp. All right, there's more, but I'm going to show this before we continue. That's hot. Oh my. Yes, very much a George Takei moment. Do you know what I currently regret the most? Yan Wushi suddenly asked. Yeah, his little brush is adorable. Shen Qiao looked back at him in confusion. His thoughts seemed to have been churned into paste by an invisible hand. Even his gaze overflowed with bewilderment, and his hair was mused from all the fondling. He was the perfect picture of an innocent, guileless little creature just waiting for some evil-intentioned person to ravage him. Give it a second, and I'm sure that'll happen. If I'd known this would happen, Yan Wushi said, I'd have brought all the residents within this alley. I would have bought all the residences within this alley. What does buying residences have to do with regret? Shen Qiao wondered in a daze. His Adam's apple was held in place and sucked on, sending a numbing ache throughout his body. He wanted to resist, but his strength wasn't quite there. Despite raising his arm, all he could do was slowly place it on Yan Wushi's shoulder, which made him look like he welcomed it and was only pretending to reject him. Yan Wushi gave a light chuckle. He'd seen plenty of pure and innocent people, but none of them had looked like Shen Qiao, or been like Shen Qiao, capable of moving him and stirring up fondness from the depths of his heart. He longed to just cocoon Shen Qiao within his arms, to keep him close and protect him, meticulously nestle him away until no one else would be able to see Shen Qiao, so that only Yan Wushi could look at him. However, Shen Qiao wasn't so fragile and delicate. He was an expert capable of standing at the summit of the world that no cruel torture nor howling tempest could ever break. He had his own set of moral principles and was willing to continue forging boldly forward with those very same principles. He would never look back. Yan Wushi did not agree with his principles, for in the past couple of decades of his life, not only had he always held such kindness and gentleness in contempt, he'd even enjoyed maliciously kicking those kinds of people when they were down. But this attitude of his had met a wall when it came to Shen Qiao. Only Shen Qiao could make him compromise willingly. Even if he didn't agree with his ideals, that didn't mean he hated them. But his increased indulgence was only for the exception known as Shen Qiao. There's someone there. Shen Qiao's ears were exceptionally sharp. He'd heard the light smattering of footsteps coming from outside the alley. They were still distant, but not so much so that it stopped him from coming to his senses a little. He reached out to push Yan Wushi away with some force, and a noise resembling a groan escaped his mouth. He jolted then, suddenly startled by how different his voice sounded. Yan Wushi grunted in response, but he didn't restrain his actions in the slightest. Now that he was willing to employ all the patience in the world to tease, the person being teased could only surrender, letting Yan Wushi play as he liked. Especially when it was a pure and innocent Taoist like Shen Qiao. Very quickly, Yan Wushi's skillful ministrations had Shen Qiao almost forgetting about the footsteps entirely. But only almost. After another moment, he grabbed Yan Wushi's hand, his face flushed crimson, as he said, "In broad daylight?" Yan Wushi said, "Here in broad daylight, Taoist Master Shen took advantage of me." Shen Qiao was speechless. "But I refused to submit even under pain of death," Yan Wushi continued, "and resisted with all my might. I was able to go on the offensive, thus forcing the lecher Taoist Master Shen to surrender himself for capture." Then he really did grab Shen Qiao's hands and twist them behind his back. "I never thought that Taoist Master Shen, who looked so dignified and virtuous, was secretly someone who'd lose control of himself in the face of a beauty." Shen Qiao didn't respond. On one hand, he was stunned by Yan Wushi's remarks and his ability to twist black into white. Never had he imagined that a person this shameless could exist in the world. On the other hand, thanks to the skillful ministrations of this man's wandering hands, more than half of his mind had already been shut off. The remaining portion was naturally no match for Yan Wushi. The footsteps grew closer and closer. A young man, dressed in a short coat, seemed to have just returned home from work, carrying some meat pastries he'd purchased at the street corner. He'd planned on taking a shortcut, not expecting that there'd be other people in this tiny alley, and came face to face with the pair. Well, perhaps face to face wasn't accurate. After all, more than half of Shen Qiao's body, including his face, was hidden by Yan Wushi. Only Yan Wushi lifted his head from the crook of Shen Qiao's neck, neither fast nor slow, then deliberately turned his head to shoot the newcomer a glare. Yeah, about to be another injustice to service workers. The man gasped, and the first thought that floated into his mind wasn't, how can these two Taoist priests do something so vulgar in broad daylight? And instead, it was, that man's eyes are terrifying. That piercing glare sent him stumbling back 3 steps. He didn't even say anything, just turned on his heels and fled. Yeah, I'm giving him an injustice. So we actually have reached 25! Yan Wushi turned back to Shen Qiao and said, "Look, victory without bloodshed." Shen Qiao did want to reply, but at this moment he lacked the capacity to say anything. Yan Wushi also felt that their current location was too inconvenient. Though doing this in the open also brought with it a thrilling sense of taboo, surely they couldn't just start going at it against the wall. He picked Shen Qiao up in his arms like a little princess and leapt into the air with a tap of his foot. Sweeping across the rooftops as if he was treading on flat ground, he ran in the direction of the nearest inn. Lately, the innkeeper had been worried. Due to the Prince of Shisheng's rebellion, the official roads were all being used for transporting grain and supplies, while the roadside had grown a little less safe. As a result, the number of merchants entering the capital to do business had also decreased, and so this inn, which hadn't been making much money in the first place, had grown even more desolate. When Yan Wushi brought Shen Qiao inside, the innkeeper was standing by the entrance, arms crossed as he agonized over these things. Suddenly, a refreshing breeze blew past him, and before he could pull himself out of his thoughts, he heard the concierge making a sound of surprise. Do these 2 gentlemen wish to stay? Our humble inn has some luxury rooms available. Is the gentleman in your arms ill? Would you like this lowly one to call a doctor?" The concierge prattling was interrupted by Yan Wushi. "Where are the empty luxury rooms?" The innkeeper's thoughts had finally caught up, and he quickly said, They're on the 2nd floor. We have 4 rooms available. You can pick whichever you like. The rates are a bit more expensive. It's 150 for a single night." He was a little uneasy as he said these words, as the inn wasn't very large, and yet the rates for rooms weren't particularly cheap compared to other places. But free trauma for all at the inn. Truffle. About to be. But before he could finish his sentence, he felt a weight hit his chest. The innkeeper subconsciously grabbed it. He looked down and saw that it was a round of silver, sizable and heavy. With this, they could stay for at least half a month. Overjoyed, the innkeeper looked up, but the stranger had already drifted off to the 2nd floor, still carrying the other man in his arms. The concierge leaned in and asked, "Should we call a doctor or not?" The innkeeper hesitated for a moment. "They didn't ask for one, so we shouldn't be too nosy. Prepare some hot water, then cook some dishes and keep them warm. Once our guests need them, we can send them up at any time." Whew. Upstairs, Yan Wushi carried Shen Qiao into the luxury room. Sure enough, these interiors were much more spacious than a standard bedroom and well cleaned. Even the bed was larger than the ones in an average inn, with a soft mattress that still carried the faint fragrance of sandalwood incense. It was clear a fair amount of money had gone into this room. No wonder it wasn't cheap. Oh, hello, Esper lady. Welcome. So you missed. I'm going to show it again because it wasn't that long ago, and it's important. You missed Yan Wushi and Chen Qiao actually kissing, like consensually. So that's exciting. They are now at a inn. Yeah, so it very descriptively described kissing. Very descriptively. Ooh. They have literally just made it to an inn and paid the innkeeper and are probably about to traumatize them. Upstairs, Yan Wushi carried Shen Qiao into the luxury room. Sure enough, these interiors were much more spacious than a standard bedroom and well cleaned. Even the bed was larger than the ones in an average inn, with a soft mattress that still carried the faint fragrance of sandalwood incense. It was clear a fair amount of money had gone into this room. No wonder it wasn't cheap. But with this little escapade, Shen Qiao had finally returned to his senses. He braced himself against Yan Wushi's chest, flipped himself away and down, then backed up 2 steps. He mumbled, "In my opinion, we should just forget it." Yan Wushi sneered. "You kissed me, and now you wish to throw me away after you're done with me?" Shen Qiao was speechless. "Throw me away after you're done with me didn't seem like it should be used in this situation." He collected himself and said, "It's still early. I feel like much property damage is going to ensue." You're thinking Wangshan. All those poor bathtubs. Yan Wushi raised an eyebrow. "So, you're saying that if it were nighttime, it'd be fine?" Shen Qiao blushed. He likely hadn't even noticed that his collar was slightly open, and there were even 2 red marks imprinted on his collarbone. Half exposed, half concealed. The main act hadn't even begun, yet Shen Qiao's allure was already beyond compare. Some people only had to blush and smile to send other people's hearts into a flurry, leaving them unable to control themselves. Though Yan Wushi wasn't at the point of losing control. Oh my goodness, I'm yawning so much. He was still willing to indulge his desires and thoroughly appreciate this beauty, and his gaze followed Shen Qiao's every shift in expression. Shen Qiao didn't know how he'd gone and kissed Yan Wushi with such confidence earlier. Deep down, he already thought about doing that hundreds of thousands of times, but he was a reserved person. Normally, going through with it would have been impossible. Now that Yan Wushi was closing in aggressively, he was once again trying to retreat into his shell. Of course, Yan Wushi wouldn't let him. He reached out, making to grab Shen Qiao's hand, and Shen Qiao instinctively tried to block. The 2 of them exchanged several blows, but after executing a couple of feints... Oh no, I'm going to be yawning all this time. But after executing a couple of feints, Yan Wushi managed to grab his waist sash and drag him into his arms. With a yank, Shen Qiao's sash fell to the ground, and then he was pinned to the table with Yan Wushi looking down at him from above. What followed was a scene of bridal candles and spring tents, of brocade laid upon a bed in rippling red waves. Innkeeper? What's that sound coming from the 2nd floor? The concierge could hear what sounded like an insistent rattling, but it quickly fell back into silence. When the two came in just now, wasn't one of them being carried? How did they end up fighting instead? Should I go up and take a look? What if someone ends up dead? The innkeeper was performing calculations on an abacus. He didn't even look up. When immortals are fighting, stay out of their business. Immortals are fighting my ass? Sounds more like demons fighting to me, the concierge murmured to himself. Oh my. Oh yeah, Shen Qiao can take Yan Wushi in a fight. In a fight, right? Right? Oh goodness. $111. Okay. So I guess that's actually the end of that arc. So now we get to start the Young Again arc. Young Again, Part 1. Shiwu stood outside the door, hesitating over whether he should knock. By this time, Shizen should have long woken up, either to teach them a sword or help them practice writing. Even when sect leader Yan had been there, that hadn't changed. The routine was never broken. Shen Qiao would never be like this. Shizen, are you awake? After standing there for a long time without hearing any noise from inside, sometime later, some poor bookkeeper at Huanyue sect is going to wonder why they keep getting billed for furniture. Yeah. Would that technically be an injustice to service workers or not? Because he did pay them handsomely. I guess the guy just got scared. I'm not sure. Anyway. There was a thump, followed by muffled noises. It sounded like someone had fallen. Shiwu hesitated no longer. He quickly pushed open the door and entered. Shizen, are you all right? I'm gonna leave off on it because he didn't actually get traumatized specifically from their actions. I think he was just like, this is ridiculous. Should we help them? So I'm gonna leave it. We're gonna stay at 25 for right now. Think an injustice because both in workers had to listen to that and replacing stuff with bro. All right. You have argued me into a point, so it is now 26. I have heeded both of your words. Okay. When he circled around the folding screen and saw the situation within the bedroom, the expression on his face, originally full of anxiety and worry, transformed into dumbfounded shock in an instant. So much that he couldn't even finish speaking. His Shizen wasn't on the bed, and beneath the bed, covered by clothes, was only a struggling, flailing child? Who are you? Shiwu blurted out. The child was only wearing a single-layered shirt and a pair of pants. He seemed to be trying to put himself in Shizen's clothing, though he ultimately failed. It was obvious that Shiwu's arrival had frightened him quite a bit. He stared blankly at him for a moment, doing his best to appear calm and composed, but his crisp, childlike voice exposed the tiny tremble within it, so it wasn't too effective. This one is Shen Qiao. May I ask who this distinguished master might be? Where is this place? What? You're Shen Qiao? Then where's my Shizen? Shiwu stared blankly back at him, and the two gazed at each other for a while, both at a loss. The child's body was still swamped in that oversized robe, and it was like he'd been fixed in place, for he didn't move a muscle. Last night, she remembered very clearly that, since it had been Qilang's birthday, everyone had been full of cheer. Shizun had specially asked for several dishes to be made at the foot of the mountain, then delivered up here. Everyone had drunk quite a bit of wine, only retiring after they thoroughly enjoyed themselves. Hence, everyone had woken up a little later than usual. However, Shen Qiao hadn't said that they could rest today, so Shiwu, Yuan Song, and the rest still rose the way they usually did. But no matter how long they waited, Shen Qiao never showed up. Still, Shiwu could have never predicted this kind of comical farce. He collected himself and took a couple of steps forward. The child hurriedly retreated a few steps, then ended up tripping on his robes, his entire body falling backwards. Shiwu nimbly reached out to grab the child, holding him in place. Don't be scared. I'm not a bad guy. I'm a disciple from Xuandu Mountain, Shiwu. Child's eyes widened. You're also a disciple of Xuandu Mountain? How come I've never seen you before? Shiwu skipped right over this question. Do you know where my Shizun went? Who is your Shizun? The Xuandu Mountain sect leader. The child's eyes grew even rounder. My Shizun is also the Xuandu Mountain sect leader. My Shizun is Shen Qiao, said Shiwu. I am Shen Qiao, the child said, completely innocent. Shiwu feebly held his forehead. Then who's your Shizun? The child was young, but he wasn't stupid. You call yourself a disciple of Xuandu Mountain, so why wouldn't you know who my Shizun is? A rather improbable idea slowly floated to Shiwu's mind. Qi Fingui? The child's expression told Shiwu that his answer was correct. Shiwu wanted to cry, but he had no tears right now. He carefully asked, Then how old are you this year? For some reason, even though the child didn't recognize Shiwu, he felt a kind of innate closeness towards him. I'm almost 7. So he was only 6 years old. My God, my Shizun turned back into a 6-year-old overnight. Can he even return to normal? What if he can't? What will we do then? The thought struck Shiwu like a bolt from the blue, and for a short time he couldn't collect himself but only stared dumbly at the child. Shiwu had wondered before if this entire thing was just one enormous hoax, but for one thing, his Shizun would never make this kind of joke. For another, with his Shizun's martial prowess, no one could have managed to kidnap his Shizun without notice. And for another thing, the child's face really did resemble his Shizun's by 7 or 8 parts out of 10. Oh, them comparing everything by fractions. Hang on. Message popped up real quick. I need to make sure all is well. Sorry. Hang on. Okay. It was clear that this was a miniature version of his Shizun. Seeing that Shiwu hadn't spoken for a long time, a very long time, little Shen Qiao panicked and yelled, I'm going to go find Shizun! And then he tried to run outside. Shiwu hurried to stop him. Little Shen Qiao moved to attack, but as he currently was, he was far from being Shiwu's match. A few seconds later, Shiwu had sealed his acupoints. Little Shen Qiao was horrified to realize that, though he didn't recognize this person at all, his every move and stance indeed belonged to Xuandu Mountain. His little mouth pursed, and his eyes, like black grapes, quickly became glossy and moist. "I want to find my Shizun!" Shiwu felt his nose tingle with the urge to cry. "I want my Shizun too! Give my Shizun back to me!" Little Shen Qiao was unable to reply. The news that the sect leader had transformed into a child quickly spread through the entirety of Xuandu Mountain. After everyone had faced the same emotional ups and downs as Shiwu, they finally accepted this almost fantastical reality. Little Shen Qiao, however, was unable to accept it for now. He hugged the stuffed rabbit that Gu Hangbo had found on the mountain, his expression lost but innocent. Every time he opened his mouth, he'd ask for his Shizun. Otherwise, though little Shen Qiao was unusually well behaved, he didn't cry or fuss, and he didn't require anyone to soothe him. Due to his extremely adorable appearance, other than finding his situation utterly unbelievable, everyone in Xuandu Mountain refused to pass over this chance to observe their sect leader as a child. They found various excuses to show up in front of little Shen Qiao and stroll around. They even brought him all sorts of presents. Alright, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think what I'm going to end up doing tonight is I'm going to finish the Young Again arc and see how I feel. I'm kind of fading fast, but I want to at least finish the Young Again. It's not too much, I guess. We'll see. I'm getting really tired and I don't want to just be mumbling through this. They all found various excuses to show up in front of little Shen Qiao and stroll around. They even brought him all sorts of presents. Of course, everyone was also racking their brains for a way to restore Shen Qiao to normal. The elders even tried channeling their internal energy into him, but strangely, little Shen Qiao's body was like a bottomless pit. Any true qi they poured into him was like mud sinking into the deep sea, vanishing without a trace. Shu, why did your esteemed self go and find little Shizun a rabbit? Shiwu asked Gu Hengbo. Did Shizun love rabbits as a child? When Shixian and I first entered the sect, Shixian was already much older than he seemed to be now, so his personality was completely different, she replied. He could even teach us on Shizun's behalf, so naturally he wouldn't spend the entire day hugging stuffed animals. I only heard about this from Shizun once myself, but his esteemed elder once gifted Heir Shixian with a stuffed rabbit, and Heir Shixian was ecstatic. He'd hold it even while sleeping. Not far off, little Shen Qiao was sitting quietly, his hands intermittently patting the large white rabbit. He saw that they were talking, but he only kept on watching curiously without interrupting them. But letting things continue like this really wasn't a solution. Shiwu held his forehead and asked, Does Shishu have any ideas? Hesitant, Gu Hengbo said, I've already sent Liu Li Palace a letter of inquiry. Liu Li Palace's disciples are incredibly knowledgeable, so perhaps they have a method. However, they're far away and beyond the sea, so we won't receive a reply for a while. Why don't we send a letter to sect leader Yan? Oh boy. Yan Wushi had left the mountain for Chang'an only a few days ago. Shiwu didn't dare to imagine what his reaction to this incident might be. Would he fly into a rage and take it out on them? Shiwu was trembling with fear a little, but the idea of his Shizen staying this way forever, unable to recover, terrified him even more. Oh yeah. Oh, Yanwushi's going to have a field day with this. Yep. Yes, he is, Yannicka. I'll write a letter at once. Yanwushi's reaction was not what they'd expected. Not at all. When he first saw little Shen Qiao, he too froze for a fair amount of time. But a Grand Master was a Grand Master after all. He quickly recovered his senses. If a person didn't cause this, perhaps it was just a chance encounter, and he'll naturally return to normal when the time comes. Kidding, he's going to be so gooey about little Qiao. He's going to be insufferable for days. Absolutely he is. Shiwu was dumbfounded. What if he doesn't return to normal? Yanwushi glanced at him. Your Shizen has taught you for so long, and you're his eldest disciple, yet shouldering the sex responsibilities is too much for you? Shiwu was ashamed. Thank you, Sex Leader Yan, for your instructions. Shiwu understands. Yanwushi sounded satisfied. He approached little Shen Qiao. Naturally, little Shen Qiao didn't recognize Yanwushi. He watched as this handsome man strolled towards him, and his gaze was filled with the usual wariness one would show strangers, but also a hint of curiosity. I'm Yanwushi. He got straight to the point. Unexpectedly, little Shen Qiao's eyes grew wide. Shizen said that you fought him once, said little Shen Qiao. That's right. Little Shen Qiao canted his head and squinted at him, finding something a bit odd. But Shizen clearly said that Yanwushi was a very young man. Am I not young? Said Yanwushi. Have you forgotten? Who was complaining on the bed a couple of days ago that I had far too much energy and asked me not to take so long? He'd spoken these words practically right into little Shen Qiao's ears. Shiwu didn't hear him. Bewilderment was written all over Shen Qiao's face. He didn't understand at all. Yanwushi suddenly thought that Shen Qiao staying this way for a while wouldn't be too bad. At least he was amusing and easy to trick. Once he recovered and recalled all of this, he'd probably try to crawl into a hole in the ground while blushing to his very ears. I'll take you down to the mountain to play. Take you down the mountain to play, said Yanwushi. Little Shen Qiao shook his head. I'm staying here. He hadn't seen anyone he was familiar with these past few days, but no matter what, he knew that this place was Xuandu Mountain, that the people on the mountain treated him well without any malice to speak of. So naturally, he was unwilling to go anywhere else. Yanwushi smiled. That's not up to you. He wasn't like Shiwu and Gu Hangbo and the others, who would spend half the day coaxing him with sweet words. Instead, he simply knocked Shen Qiao unconscious. Shiwu was speechless at first, but seeing how Yanwushi had picked up the boy, ready to leave, he quickly ran up to stop him. Sect Leader Yan, where are you taking Shizen? Yanwushi swept him a glance. It's time for you to be tested. Don't betray your Shizen's efforts in teaching you. My venerable self will be taking him down the mountain for fun. Once he returns to normal, I'll bring him back. He was willing to offer Shiwu this explanation on account of Shen Qiao. This was already a tremendous amount of favor to show him. Little Shen Qiao had never imagined that he'd wake up to find himself no longer on Xuandu Mountain. He looked around at his unfamiliar surroundings, and combined with how he'd only just met Yanwushi, Panic and confusion immediately welled up inside him. In an instant, his eyes were shining with tears. Yan Wushi was well prepared. If you start crying, I won't take you back again. You know that I've fought your master before. I'm a bad person. Little Shen Qiao forcibly held back his tears. He didn't dare cry, but he couldn't help retorting. Shizun didn't say that you were a bad person. He said that you had extraordinary aptitude and that you are certain to achieve great heights in your martial arts studies in the future. With how young Shen Qiao was, Yan Wushi hadn't expected the boy to be capable of maintaining such flattery and fluency of speech before someone like him. He adored Shen Qiao to a ridiculous degree, but this kind of adoration was usually expressed through teasing and bullying. The present was no exception. When he saw little Shen Qiao's eyes well with tears, Yan Wushi held him in his arms and said gently, "All right, I'm taking you elsewhere to play. I'll send you back in 2 days." Still holding back tears, Shen Qiao tugged on Yan Wushi's sleeves, his face full of grievances. Sect leader Yan, can you take me to see Shizun? I miss him. All right, said Yan Wushi. Little Shen Qiao's expression immediately filled with joy. The radiance beaming out from his little face was practically visible to the naked eye. The two of them got off the carriage. They were in a marketplace. It was boisterous beyond comparison as people came and went. In the end, children were children. When there were fresh new things to look at, they temporarily forget their sorrows. Little Shen Qiao looked left and right, his face filled with curiosity. Yan Wushi carried him to a Tangren stall. How about we have him mold you a shizun? Shen Qiao looked at the lifelike Tangren in all different colors and nodded joyfully. The peddler smiled. What kind of person does this little gentleman want me to mold? How tall is he? What kind of clothes does he wear? Shen Qiao earnestly gestured with his hands. He's this tall, and he likes wearing blue. He carries a sword on his back. Anyone else getting the circle of doom? Oh no! Here, let me see. I can reset it. Hang on. Actually, I need to use the bathroom, so I'm gonna go reset the router. And hopefully that'll help fix it. No worries, Truffle. I'll be right back. Okay. Wait, no, Truffle. I ran and reconnected it. No. I'm sorry, guys. I'm back. I promise. Are people still here? Oh, I'm sorry that it took a little bit to reset it. Okay, I'm sorry. I ran upstairs and reset it. Okay. Okay, let's see. Yan Wushi was well prepared. If you start crying, I won't take you back again. You know that I've fought your master before. I'm a bad person. Little Shen Qiao forcibly held back his tears. He didn't dare cry, but he couldn't help retorting. Shizun didn't say you were a bad person. He said that you had extraordinary aptitude and that you were certain to achieve great heights in your martial arts studies in the future. With how young little Shen Qiao was, Yan Wushi hadn't expected the boy to be capable of maintaining such fluency of speech before someone like himself. He adored Shen Qiao to a ridiculous degree, but this kind of adoration was usually expressed through teasing and bullying. The present was no exception. When he saw little Shen Qiao's eyes well with tears, Yan Wushi held him in his arms and said gently, "All right. I'll take you elsewhere to play. I'll send you back in 2 days. Oh, wait. We are back at the Tengren stall. How about we have him mold you a shizen?" Shen Qiao looked at the lifelike Tengren in all different colors and nodded joyfully. The peddler smiled. "What kind of person does this little gentleman want me to mold? How tall is he? What kind of clothes does he wear?" Shen Qiao earnestly gestured with his hands. "He's this tall and he likes wearing blue. He carries a sword on his back." The peddler was quick and skillful. Soon the Tengren was finished. "Look at this, little sir. Does this look like him?" Shen Qiao nodded repeatedly, his eyes completely fixed on the Tengren. When it was placed into his hands, he clutched at it, completely unwilling to let go. Yan Wushi smiled. "I didn't lie to you, right?" Little Shen Qiao froze, and his small mouth hung slightly open. He looked at him, then looked at the Tengrin. His eyebrows scrunched as he struggled with himself for a long time. He seemed deeply upset, but in the end he swallowed it down again. Even Yan Wushi couldn't help but admire his self-restraint a little. After all, this wasn't a 10-year-old Shen Qiao, and certainly not a 15-year-old Shen Qiao. He wasn't even 7 years old, and he'd been suddenly transported into a foreign world within the span of a night. There wasn't a single familiar person around him, but he still managed to hold on to some basic sense. It was truly remarkable. But no matter how he endured, when little Shen Qiao's voice rang out again, it was slightly nasal. "Seconds later, Yan, your esteemed self knows where my shizen is, right? May I trouble you to help me find him?" "He left you with me for now." "May I trouble you to help me find him?" "He left you with me for now." "Oh, hi, Momar's Rover. Welcome." We've had some stuff happen. So basically, Shen Qiao finally realized his feelings, kissed Yan Wushi, and they had a rendezvous at an inn, potentially traumatizing some innkeepers. And now Shen Qiao is suddenly a 6-year-old, and Yan Wushi is having a great time showing him around town. And Shen Qiao is just like, "Have you seen my shizen?" And now we're here. "He left you with me for now," said Yan Wushi. "He'll naturally appear when the time is right. Someone as powerful as he is will never have any problem." Yes, it's very adorable. His gentle consoling helped relieve some of little Shen Qiao's panic. The boy sniffled, then wrapped his arms around Yan Wushi's neck and nodded. But the next moment, Yan Wushi lowered his head and opened his mouth, and then bit half the Tengrin's shoulder right off. Little Shen Qiao was dumbfounded. Unable to take it anymore, he burst right into tears with a wail. God, Yan Wushi's such a troll. But you doing okay, Mars Rover? Where'd my pen go? We'll start 142. Or we'll start 143. Young Again, Part 2. In an instant, many denouncing gazes landed on Yan Wushi from all directions, including from the peddler. He looked like such a proper gentleman, but to think he went as far as to steal a tangren from a child. He'd even bitten off such a huge piece of it. What child wouldn't cry? The peddler also had 2 daughters himself. Seeing Shen Qiao's reaction, his heart ached, and he quickly said, "Uncle will mold you another one. Don't cry." Hearing this, little Shen Qiao really did stop crying and raised his sleeves to wipe at his tears. His voice was very nasally when he said, "Thank you, Uncle. What is already enough?" He looked again at his Shizun, who was now missing a shoulder, and he couldn't help but feel choked again. He quickly fought to hold back his tears, looking both pitiful and adorable. It was more than enough to move women overflowing with maternal instinct. Even the peddler couldn't help but want to mold him a few more tangren to make him smile. Some passerby were feeling indignant and wanted to rebuke Yan Wushi, but when they met his cold gaze, they were so intimidated by his aura that they swallowed down their words, too afraid to speak, and their faces flushed red. Yan Wushi said to little Shen Qiao, "All right, I was only joking with you earlier. Let him mold you another one. You can give me the crippled Qifengui." "Shizun isn't a cripple," said little Shen Qiao angrily. "You bit it off." Yan Wushi smiled. "If you continue being so ferocious, I'll take you away and you'll never see Qifengui again." "Shizun." Little Shen Qiao pursed his lips as he struggled not to cry, his eyes filled with tears. "I want Shizun!" The emotions he repressed for so long spilled forth all at once, and Shen Qiao transformed right into a weeping mess. Now even 10 tangren wouldn't be able to silence him. Yan Wushi hugged the boy, his temples and the corners of his mouth twitching as he finally tasted distress entirely by his own doing. For the first time, sect leader Yan, who'd always been the willful and unreasonable one, found himself completely helpless. If the person in his arms hadn't been Shen Qiao, he of course would have had 100 ways of getting them to shut up. But in his eyes, everything Shen Qiao did was adorable. It was just that Yan Wushi's method of expressing his adoration was different from everyone else's, and he also had forgotten about the age gap between little Shen Qiao and the actual Shen Qiao. In a moment of carelessness, he'd gone overboard with the teasing. Everyone thought that Shen Qiao had become a child overnight, but in reality, that wasn't the case. Shen Qiao opened his eyes, then realized right away that something was off. True, there were soft blankets beneath him, and above his head were the familiar ceiling beam. True, there were soft blankets beneath him, and above his head were the familiar ceiling beams. But beyond the windows was pitch black night with a bright moon suspended high in the sky. There wasn't anything wrong with the dark night. What was wrong was that the 5 senses of all martial arts practitioners were incredibly sharp, and under normal circumstances they'd never sink into such deep slumber. If his sleep had been deeper than usual, it should have been morning right now. He didn't need any candlelight. Using only the moonlight, Shen Qiao surveyed the room around him, then realized something strange. This place was indeed Xuandu Mountain, but instead of waking up where he was supposed to be living, he'd found himself in the house he'd lived in as a disciple. The feeling of strangeness grew stronger and stronger, but Shen Qiao wasn't little Shen Qiao after all. Though he was a bit disturbed, at the same time a certain idea appeared within his heart. Was he dreaming about the past? As he considered this, he rose and pushed open the door, then walked outside. The night was silent. Shen Qiao raised his head to look at the sky, then left and right around him. What he saw instantly froze him in surprise. Currently, he was standing in the front area of a small building, and this small building was where Qi Fengui and his disciples had lived. After Shen Qiao had become sect leader, he was unwilling to continue occupying his Shizen's residence, and he'd moved to a nearby house instead. Right now, his surroundings were pitch black. The only exception was the faint light seeping from Shizen's old room. The candlelight swayed. It seemed someone was inside. Shen Qiao's heart pounded with emotion for a moment. He went up the stairs and slowly headed for the room where the candlelight shone. Even though it felt like a dream, he was also afraid of being disappointed by the dream. He made no attempt to hide the sounds of his footsteps. The person in the room quickly discovered his presence. "Who's outside?" The other party didn't stand to open the door. His tone was casual and gentle, as if he were reading via the candlelight. It was tremendously familiar, something Shen Qiao had heard innumerable times. He was unable to control his quickening heartbeat. His eyes burned, and his vision instantly blurred. "Who is it?" When the other party failed to hear a response, he thought it strange. Thus, he finally stood and came to open the door. The moment the door opened, the two men stood face to face, and the countenance that Shen Qiao had recalled countless times in his memories was now right before him. Shen Qiao's entire body seemed to have frozen in place. He couldn't move even half a step. He stared at the other man, unwilling to blink. "Your..." Qi Fengui paused, then continued. "Who is this distinguished master? What business brings you to Xuandu Mountain?" At this time, Qi Fengui was in his prime, the hair at his temples an inky black. It seemed that he had just bathed, for his hair was tied up beauty. At most, one could call him somewhat good-looking, but his features were bright and confident. The polish of the ages, his abundant experience, as well as the breadth and depth of his knowledge and moral character all imparted to him a share of indescribable charisma. If there was a type of person in this world with the power to make others trust him on sight, then that description would undoubtedly refer to Qi Fengui. He sounds like such a good dude. Like, from everything we've heard of him, he just sounds like such a good guy. Shen Qiao remembered very well the time when Shizen had failed to break through. Just as he was about to pass away, where he was sitting, Shen Qiao had been ordered to go in and see him for the final time. By then, Qi Fengui had already lost the unchanging appearance that he'd maintained for several decades. Instead, his complexion had been ashen, his temples peppered with strands of frosty white. Even his gaze had turned dim and lifeless. Hence, when Shen Qiao once again saw Shizen as he'd been in his past, nostalgia and sorrow both suddenly surged within his heart. He could no longer control his tears. They rapidly brimmed over, streaming right down his cheeks. "Shizen," Shen Qiao choked through sobs. Realizing that he was forgetting his manners, he quickly lowered his head and wiped away his tears before raising it again. "Shizen, this disciple is Shen Qiao. I'm the Shen Qiao from 20 years in the future. This disciple doesn't know what happened either. I woke up already back in the past. Perhaps by saying this, your esteemed self finds it inconceivable, but this disciple isn't harboring any evil intentions." "I believe you," said Qi Fengui. Shen Qiao's words cut off right there, and he stared at Qi Fengui with some surprise. Qi Fengui smiled. "I believe you because even though you've grown bigger, your features are still the same, and there's the way you speak, the way you walk. along with all sorts of other things. Your old self is visible within all of them. How could I fail to recognize you? Then he extended a hand and gently patted Shen Qiao's head. So this is how Qiao looks once he's grown up. Shen Qiao only felt a momentary warmth upon his head, and he couldn't stop the choked feelings from returning once again. But what matter of divine occurrence is this? You said that you're Qiao from 20 years in the future, then what happened to the 6-year-old little Qiao? As expected of Chief Ingwei, he'd gotten to the root of the situation right away. Shen Qiao frowned. This disciple doesn't know either. I was meditating, then I somehow fell asleep. When I woke up, I discovered that I'd gone back 20 years into the past. Chief Ingwei seemed quite fascinated. Then where is this master 20 years in the future? Shen Qiao was silent. Chief Ingwei understood. I'm already dead by then. Shizen. Chief Ingwei was amused. Birth, aging, illness, and death. These are all normal things. Martial art practitioners may live longer, but their lifespans can't compare to that of the heavens. Why does Qiao make such an expression? Could it be that you've spent 20 years of growth in vain, seeing as you still can't move on from this? Shen Qiao sucked in a deep breath. This disciple has received guidance. Who is the sect leader of Xuandu Mountain at this time? This disciple is. Chief Ingwei didn't look particularly surprised. Instead, he smiled and nodded. Many events happened in between. It's a long story, said Shen Qiao. Does Shizen want this disciple to give a detailed report? Chief Ingwei shook his head. No need to say more. The things that should happen are already predestined. Knowing them gives no benefits, and it might even make things worse. Any ordinary person who received the chance to learn about their future would find it impossible to curb their curiosity. But Shen Qiao was unsurprised by Chief Ingwei's answer. That was simply how wise and considerate his Shizen was. I'm not sure how long this divine occurrence can last, Chief Ingwei said. This master has received such a rare chance in getting to meet a grown-up Qiao, but you can't waste all your time here. It's the Lantern Festival tonight, and your martial siblings have all gone down the mountain to play. Would you like to head down for a stroll as well? Of course this disciple is willing, said Shen Qiao joyfully. The two of them descended the mountain, one behind the other. Chief Ingwei used his qinggong, his figure drifting like a wandering immortal's. Shen Qiao realized that in this dream, not only did everything in his surroundings feel completely real to the touch, even his martial arts hadn't been diminished in the slightest. It really didn't feel like it was actually a dream. Chief Ingwei had just stopped when he saw that Shen Qiao was already standing next to him, and he couldn't conceal his pleasure. This disciple surpasses the master. Xuandu Mountain has a worthy successor. Shen Qiao smiled. Shizen is too kind. My martial arts is still inferior to yours during your peak. Yan Wushi, however... Right after he spoke this name, he realized there seemed to be an inexplicable force restraining him, preventing him from talking about various things pertaining to the future. Chief Ingwei didn't notice any peculiarities. Yan Wushi. It seems that in 20 years his strength will reach another level. Shen Qiao found himself unable to elaborate, so he only nodded his head. Chief Ingwei also didn't pursue the matter further. His gaze fell on the festive and noisy scene before them, the people coming and going. He smiled and asked, I trust that Xuandu town will also be livelier 20 years in the future. Lanterns as far as the eye could see, in colors rich and varied. From time to time, the sound of children laughing and playing drifted over. It was truly an exuberant and lively lantern festival. I think it's about the same, said Shen Qiao. He'd already calmed down completely. It wasn't any hardship to be unable to talk about the future. Spending a night together with Shizun like this was already the greatest and happiest surprise. Chief Ingui brought them to a stall for guessing lantern riddles, where he joined in and answered a riddle correctly, winning a rabbit lantern in the process. Then he handed the rabbit lantern to Shen Qiao, joking. When you came down the mountain last year, you also took a liking to this rabbit lantern. But Yuan Shun wanted it too, so you let him have it. You didn't come down with him this year, so you're getting this rabbit lantern at quite a bargain. Shen Qiao no longer remembered what had happened when he was 6, but he found the sincere and cherishing love Shizun showed him impossibly warm, and he clutched at the rabbit lantern completely unwilling to let go. The candlelight shone from within the rabbit's belly, bringing with it a faint warmth. 20 years in the past and 20 years in the future. A living person and an icy tomb. Moisture welled up in Shen Qiao's eyes, and worried that Shizun would think him weak, he quickly blinked it away. Only then did he smile. Thank you, Shizun. Chief Ingui patted his shoulder, his gaze full of tender love. He didn't say anything, but he seemed to have understood everything. As they passed through the alleyway, the clamor and activity gradually quieted down. Before their eyes, the river gently flowed past. Many lanterns had been placed on paper boats, and they drifted down from upstream, the wishes and dreams of many all entrusted within them. The two rested beneath a tree for a while. Chief Ingui saw Shen Qiao still carrying the rabbit, unwilling to put it down. He couldn't help but smile. Why is my Qiao still so childish when he's all grown up? Shen Qiao smiled as well. Because it's what Shizun gave me. Just looking at the lantern made him feel like Shizun was by his side, accompanying him. Shen Qiao didn't want to believe that this was only a dream, and perhaps the existence of this rabbit lantern could make his own existence feel more real. Chief Ingui took the lantern from him, then used a slender twig to draw out the wick inside. He made it a little longer so that it could burn for a little longer as well. He then returned the lantern to Shen Qiao. I'm sorry. Shen Qiao started. Why does Shizun say that? 20 years from now, you'll become the sect leader, said Chief Ingui gently. I trust that at that time you were the only one among all the disciples who could shoulder such a heavy burden. You're humble and kind by nature, and you dislike the limelight. So it was this master who pushed you into it. Shen Qiao laughed softly. I am a Xuandu Mountain disciple. I wish for Xuandu Mountain to be peaceful. So if Shizun believes I can do well, I must devote all my efforts to it as well. Though he'd taken a detour in the beginning and paid some horrifically heavy prices, in the end he felt he had not betrayed those expectations. The two of them chatted beneath the tree for a long time. Shen Qiao couldn't remember when, but he'd grown tired and ended up falling asleep. In his dream, his head rested on Chief Ingui's thigh, and held in his arms still was the rabbit lantern already extinguished. A small smile was on his lips. One hand gently patted his head over and over again, just like it had when he was a child. Shen Qiao was awakened by the piercing rays of sunlight. he opened his eyes. Sunlight was pouring down between the cracks in the foliage, dappling his body. There was another person next to him, leaning against the tree trunk. Yet it wasn't Qi Fengwei, but Yan Wushi. Yan Wushi opened his eyes and rubbed his temples. He was preoccupied with trying to work out why, even with his martial prowess, he couldn't remember when he'd fallen asleep. But when he saw Shen Qiao, he jolted slightly. "You're back." The two of them compared their tales down to the tiniest details. Shen Qiao suddenly realized that this might not have been a dream, but that he'd truly switched places with the 7-year-old Shen Qiao for a short while and returned to the past. "But I don't remember having any memories of this from when I was 6, he said. "Perhaps because it happened in the past," said Yan Wushi. "That's why our old self naturally forgot everything." Shen Qiao thought hard about it some more. It seemed that this was the only answer possible. Yan Wushi suddenly bent at the waist to lean over. With most of his upper body pressed on top of Shen Qiao's, he reached out to pull something out from behind him. Shen Qiao looked. To his surprise, it was that rabbit lantern. I love that. Okay. Oh my gosh, hang on. So sweet. Oh my god, he looks so soft. That's such a sweet scene. Right? They're so sweet. You know, he'd be like just, oh my goodness. My heart. All right. I got a little bit of a second wind, so we're just going to keep on going. Right? They say he's looking plain, but I'm like, he looks pretty good to me. I mean, like, not Yan Wushi's level of, like, fanciness, but he looks like he'd just be a sweet guy that I'd be happy with. Okay. 206. All right. Side story 1. Behind the folding screen, there was a bed. On top of the bed lay a beauty. More precisely, the beauty's eyes were tightly shut, and he was in a deep slumber. Next to him sat a man who was currently watching the beauty. Yan Wushi stared at him for a long time, then gently placed his hand on Shen Qiao's eyelashes, brushing his fingers over them. Shen Qiao's eyelids reflexively fluttered, then he knit his brows just a little bit. It was rare for him to sleep so soundly. On an ordinary day, even the slightest movement within his surroundings would jolt Shen Qiao awake, never mind Yan Wushi running his hands over his face. It was clear that Shen Qiao was much too tired. I wonder why. Ho ho. The corners of Yan Wushi's mouth pulled up in a satisfied, relaxed smile. If anyone else had been here, they were sure to suffer a shock great enough to send goosebumps ripple through their body. This smile of his was far too gentle. So gentle that it shouldn't have appeared on his face at all. Even Yan Wushi himself probably hadn't noticed the appearance of this refreshing smile upon his face. His fingers moved from Shen Qiao's eyelashes to the spot right between his eyebrows, then slowly slid down from there until he reached the tip of his nose. Then he made to gently pinch that nose. Yet, before he actually did it, he seemed to change his mind and continued to sweep downward. He pinched Shen Qiao's lips into a flat line, and this lovely picture of a sleeping beauty during spring immediately took on a comical touch. Shen Qiao's upper and lower lips had been smushed together and now looked like he had a duck's beak. Oh, you gave him the duck pout? The Shen Qiao remained completely unaware. Perhaps he simply had no guard when it came to the person next to him, and he was content to continue wandering within his dreams. Sect leader Yan had finally realized that his actions were a bit childish. He smirked as he let go, then lowered his head to kiss Shen Qiao's mouth. From the corner of his eyes, he glimpsed the specks of green and purple patterning Shen Qiao's neck and shoulders. The corner of his lips curled up as he yanked the blankets up so that the man's neck was snugly covered. A knock sounded at the door, and Yan Wushi rose and left the bed to answer it. He didn't blush when the concierge outside saw his languid appearance, complete with a draped outer robe and mussed hair, but that concierge turned bright red. Good morning, sir. The kitchen downstairs has been lit, and the innkeeper has had this lowly one come up to ask if the two of you needed anything. Just gonna preemptively put another little tally up here. Just preemptively. As he asked, he furtively tried to peek inside. Several hours ago, they'd heard rattling noises while downstairs. Yep. They hadn't dared to come up and ask at the time, but now he was naturally checking whether they'd broken anything. Yan Wushi had wanted to decline at first, but then he reconsidered. What food do you have? The concierge smiled. We have Western-style baked cakes, roast chicken, grilled duck, okra, and so on. Our humble store has some of the best cooking in this area. Generally, we'll be able to fulfill any order you wish to make. Then let's have some buttermilk barley congee and pork trotters simmered in garlic. The trotters should be stewed until they're extra tender and no need to hold the sauce. I'll be sure to reward you properly after. Prepare some fresh fish, too. It doesn't matter which kind as long as it's fresh. Nothing fancy, just steam it and add some scallions and garlic. As for the rest, prepare some vegetable dishes and send them over. Accompanying his words, a silk pouch landed in the concierge's arms. It was heavy, and the concierge guessed that it was full of silver nuggets. Yan Wushi rattled off that long list without even a blink. The concierge was left secretly astounded as he thought that this guest really knew how to eat. It seemed like he was a rich nobleman buried in luxuries. Just this man's receipt for today alone could match 3 or 5 days of the inn's regular business earnings. Yes, what this gentleman wishes for. Our inn has it all, the concierge said attentively. This lowly one will go and make the preparations right away. Please wait a moment, and this lowly one will send some hot water over first. Yan Wushi also bid the concierge go to the bookstore and purchase a couple of scrolls for light reading. With such a generous reward at hand, the concierge was naturally willing to do anything for him, and he completely completed each task one by one. Oh, yeah. This is the continuation of our rowdy night at the inn. It was the fragrance of food that woke Shen Qiao up. The moment his eyes opened, he felt his stomach rumble with hunger. It had been such a long time since he'd had this feeling, he found it somewhat unfamiliar and disorienting. Shen Qiao blinked, then slowly scanned the room, his eyes moving from the table behind the folding screen, covered in dishes, to the silhouette sitting by the desk and reading. In an instant, his vision transformed from confused and blustered to wakeful clarity. As there was only a folding screen between them, Yan Wushi had naturally noticed his noises and movements. Qiao is awake. He put down his book, stood up, then circled around the screen. He was a little regretful that he'd been one step too slow to catch the sight of Shen Qiao waking up. But the next moment, Shen Qiao yanked the covers over his head and he burrowed into the nest of blankets. The covers suddenly bulged into a massive dome. Yan Wushi was silent. A single glance at the covers as they shifted around told him that Shen Qiao must be putting on his clothes beneath them. Yan Wushi's stomach was almost cramping from laughter, but he kept his expression flat as he faked concern. Are you all right? Shen Qiao's muffled voice came from beneath the covers. I'm fine. Yan Wushi came forward a few steps and pressed a hand to the covers. Qiao, are you injured? Come out and let me see. I'm really fine. The rustling beneath the covers grew terribly fierce. Yan Wushi guessed that he must be looking for his pants. Smiling, he said, Qiao, I forgot to tell you. Your underpants were soiled last night, so I had the concierge head out to buy a new pair. He hasn't returned yet. The covers were suddenly flung aside, and a slightly reddened face poked out. How could you let a stranger buy that? Then, should I go and personally buy them? Shen Qiao held his forehead, then mumbled something incoherently. That's not what I meant. How did he know my measurements? Yan Wushi smiled. I told him, of course. Shen Qiao didn't ask how Yan Wushi knew. It was obvious how. Yan Wushi must have measured last night while he was feeling him. Recalling the mad frenzy from last night, Shen Qiao desperately wished to just crawl into a crack in the ground and hide there. Up to just now, in fact, when he had the covers over his head, he could still smell that thick, strong scent within his own breaths. He gave a dry cough, feeling awkward, but he couldn't not answer. Sect Leader Yan. Yan Wushi interrupted him, his brows knit in displeasure. We're this intimate now, yet you still insist on calling me Sect Leader Yan. Then what should I call you? Shen Qiao asked, his words faltering. Yan Lang. You called me that many times last night, didn't you? You were even crying at the same time. Shen Qiao's entire face was flushed crimson. Stop talking! Yan Wushi sighed and sat down on the edge of the bed. We've now had intimate relations. If we were a man and a woman, I'd have already asked you to go through all the traditional marriage etiquette with me, like the 3 matches and 6 appointments. Then I'd marry into your family, and you could bring me over the threshold. Unfortunately, you're not. Wait! Hearing this, Shen Qiao felt like something was off. Why are you marrying into mine? Yan Wushi raised an eyebrow. Unless you want to marry into mine instead, Shen Qiao said. No, of course not. My venerable self likes you. I don't care about dignity or reputation. Of course, I'd have no objections if you'd let me marry you. That way, bystanders won't start criticizing or gossiping about the great and lofty Xuandu Mountain sect leader. I don't have any reputation to speak of. If it's for your sake, any grievance is no grievance at all. These words might have sounded egotistical, but there was still a hint of grievance within them as well. Shen Qiao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. That's not what I meant. Then will you take responsibility or not? Shen Qiao was speechless. Ultimately, what happened last night had been completely consensual. With Shen Qiao's sincere personality, it was impossible for him to push the entire responsibility onto the other person. Yan Wushi was banking on this, hence he'd lured Shen Qiao forward bit by bit, then let him leap into the pit he'd long dug beforehand. Sure enough, Shen Qiao's brows pinched for a long time before, finally, he arduously spat out 2 words. I will. Yan Wushi smiled slightly, then leaned over to kiss his cheek. Shen Long. Shen Qiao shuddered. Yan Wushi said gently, Shen Long, you still haven't put on your underpants. Aren't you cold? God, he's such a shit. Shen Qiao's face flushed red, and he clutched at the covers, refusing to let go. By this time, the concierge had purchased the underpants and returned. He knocked on the door, and Yan Wushi went to answer it, then brought the underpants back up with him. Shen Long, how about I help you dress? Shen Qiao couldn't take it anymore. Just continue calling me Qiao. Yan Wushi had a look of utter helplessness. You refuse to call me Yan Long, and you won't let me have this satisfaction either. Shen Qiao would not let him continue this twisted teasing. He snatched up the pants and continued to dress, pulling them on beneath the covers. Only then did he remove the covers, get off the bed, and prepare to fasten his sash. It would have been fine if Yan Wushi didn't look. The moment he did, he couldn't stop himself and burst out laughing. My dear Qiao, you've put your pants on backward. Shen Qiao was speechless as he flushed as red as a fully cooked shrimp. My goodness. Right. Our last side story for the night. Oh, hi, Dee. Or Di. Sorry. You're here for the last part of side story 2. I am awake. I am glad you are awake. We have covered Shen Qiao confessing to Yan Wushi with the kiss and them having a wild night at an inn. Young Shen Qiao traveled to this time period, and Yan Wushi had fun teasing him, made him cry. Old Shen Qiao traveled back as Dai. Yes, I know. Sorry. And had a cute little time with his Shizen, which was really wholesome. And now we're traveled back to the day after their wild rompus at the inn, and I think that's the end of that saga part, but now we have another side story. So that's where we are now. And yes, it is Dai, not Day. Sorry. Okay. Side story 2. 221:45. Okay. Side story 2. Oh, was I right the first time? Yeah, he cried. He did cry. D? It's D? Have I been saying it wrong this whole time? Oh, I'm sorry. It's D? Okay. My bad. Oops. All right, side story 2. The gates to the Taoist monastery had been left unlatched. The osmanthus flowers were in full bloom. A refreshing breeze blew and the clouds were sparse. The sky looked like colored glaze, as clear and bright as ice. Cluster after cluster of pale yellow and silvery white clasped the branches, weighing them down so much that they were almost overloaded. There were even several small birds hopping on them. The branches swayed gently, causing petals to flutter down with every motion. They scattered all over the head of the deer standing below. The deer tossed its head several times until it couldn't help but let out a sneeze. On a low table to the side was a cup. No tea had been poured yet, but quite a few petals had made their way inside. There was a teapot simmering away on low heat, its aroma wafting and mingling with the fragrance of osmanthus. The rich, refreshing scent was balanced in a marvelous equilibrium, and anyone who passed by would find comfort permeating throughout their entire body. The petals fell and tea brewed, the Taoist monastery tranquil and quiet. It was undoubtedly a scene pleasing to the heart and eye both, something to be painted. But Yang Guang was focused on something else. He was looking at the man brewing tea. The man in question wore a Taoist robe, his hair pulled back into a bun. It was a simple manner of dress that couldn't have been more ordinary, but Yang Guang was forced to admit that the simpler the dress, the more it enhanced how outstanding the man himself was. How long had it been since the first time he'd laid eyes on this person? Yang Guang didn't think too hard about it, but he'd aged from a youth into a young man since then, so it must have been a fair number of years. Yet this man was truly like an immortal, for he showed no signs of aging. Of course, Yang Guang knew that once someone's martial arts reached a certain level, they'd maintain their youth indefinitely, just like this man. It was said that such people weren't uncommon in the Jianghu, but because this man's looks were exceptional, every time they met, Yang Guang couldn't help but glance at him a few more times. The man had made a deep impression on Yang Guang. Yes, Bairong is doing great. She is living her best life. Except that I think her best life she wished involved Shen Qiao a bit more, but other than that, she's doing just fine. Our backyard is too humble to properly receive guests. If your highness is here to ask about immortality, please head to the front door. The voice, clear yet mild, rang out from behind the door. Yang Guang felt slightly awkward and couldn't help glance at the man next to him. The man's eyes were lowered, a slight frown upon his face, but his expression was tranquil. Even though he'd been waiting together with Yang Guang for quite a while now, he showed no sign of impatience, nor any hint of embarrassment at being called out. It was as if he were truly only here to accompany Yang Guang on his visit, keeping his own presence as low profile as possible. Since he'd been discovered, Yang Guang simply chose to laugh and push open the gate to enter. This prince noticed how quiet and beautiful the monastery was, so he decided to tour the area in passing and unexpectedly ended up here. I've disturbed the perfected master's peace. I beg your forgiveness. Though he said this, he had no plans of leaving. Instead, he boldly walked in, completely certain that the master of the monastery couldn't refuse him. Yang Guang's life had been smooth sailing since he was young. His parents' doting ensured that he encountered no dissatisfactions or imperfections along the way, so his personality had naturally become rather self-important. Yeah, no, she's our Danmei lady that breaks the mold of horrible things happening to her. Well, they happened before. She's okay though. Yes. So it was the Prince of Jin. Please come in. Shen Qiao gave a slight smile, showing absolutely no hint of displeasure. Yang Guang thought that the man didn't dare to show any. If Xuandu Monastery wished to hold on to its place in Chang'an, it needed the support of the imperial court. I think he'd do just fine on his own, but you keep thinking that. As he'd been peeping in front from outside, he'd inevitably committed some discourtesies. At this moment, Shen Qiao didn't rise to greet him, and Yang Guang wasn't shameless enough to fuss about it. He simply lifted the hem of his robe and sat down across from the other man, then took the initiative on behalf of the host and gestured for the person accompanying him to sit as well. Just now, I smelled the tea the perfected master was brewing and couldn't help but stop because of it. I trust that the perfected master won't be offended by our sudden visit. Shen Qiao smiled. Of course not. But who is this guest with you? Yang Guang pretended to be annoyed at himself. Oh, I forgot to introduce him to the perfected master. This man is Great Master Zi's disciple, the Buddhist monk Yu Xiu. To elaborate, he's also my father Shidi. Buddhist master Shi was from Tiantai sect, a martial brother of Fa Yi and Shu Ting. 2 years ago, in order to bring the Buddhist discipline under control, Yang Jian had willingly tossed aside his dignity as an emperor and acknowledged Buddhist master Zhi as his master, demonstrating just how much he valued Buddhism. Once news of this incident spread, Buddhism's reputation and standing had exploded, their limelight bright beyond compare. However, though Buddhist monk Yu Xiu had no hair whatsoever, he was dressed in common wear rather than a monk's robe. Hearing his identity, Shen Qiao couldn't stop surprise from coloring his expression. I've brought a Buddhist monk to a Taoist monastery. Is the perfected master unhappy? Shen Qiao smiled. Of course not. All who come are guests. The Prince of Jin and the Buddhist master don't mind. Please have a taste of this humble Taoist coarse tea. Yang Guang gave a carefree smile. Since it's tea that the perfected master personally brewed himself, I must have a taste. Then I can go home and boast to my parents later. He and Yu Xiu took the teacups and lowered their heads to give the tea a sip. It was indeed a coarse tea. Though it carried the fragrance of osmanthus blossoms, that couldn't conceal the bitter astringency of the tea itself. Yang Guang was completely unaccustomed to drinking something like this. After one small sip, he frowned and put down his bowl, then glanced at Yu Xiu. The monk was quietly holding his cup in both hands, taking sip after sip of tea, neither fast nor slow. Soon he'd finished the entire cup. It seems that I'm the one who doesn't understand tea. What's this? Do you hear? I'm not sure. Do you hear? I'm not sure which one you're asking about. Hair. Oh, okay. So usually monks have shaved heads. It's a common practice to show commitment. Sometimes they also have burnt markings. I forget the actual name of what they're called, but it's 6 burnt. It's the aspect of the monks. It's I don't know a ton about it, so I don't want to go too in depth into it. But that's why they mentioned his hair. I think is that what you meant, D? But yeah, it seems that I'm the one who doesn't understand tea. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. It was a waste to gift it to me. The Prince of Jin speaks too seriously, said Qiao. The tea leaves have already been brewed. It was meant to be drunk. Whether the Prince of Jin or someone else drinks it makes no difference. The tea exists regardless of whether it's in your stomach, so there's no waste to speak of. Yang Guang started. For a moment, he didn't know how to respond. Instead, it was Yu Xiu who answered. The perfected master's words reflect the will of Buddhism. He refuses to open public lectures to speak of the Tao. But this humble monk sees that it's untrue. The perfected master knows the art of debate very well. Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry. His appearance had always been refined and delicate, yet this smile was as bright as charming as a flower. It left a strong impression. Well, Master Yu Shu Yu, was apprenticed under Great Master Zizi. He also learned martial arts from his Shibo, Great Master Fa Yi, said Yang Guang. They say that he's a genius who only ever appears once every couple of decades, that his aptitude is even higher than that of Shu Ting's. But I was born too late to witness how formidable Buddhist monk Shu Ting was. Could I have the fortune of watching Yu Xiu seek some martial guidance from the perfected master? Shen Qiao swept his gaze over both of them before it landed on the teacup in front of him. With Buddhist master Yu Xiu's aptitude, he'll likely see great achievements within a couple of years. This humble Taoist is incompetent. How could he carelessly offer Oh, hang on. Pointers. I skipped a page. This was rejection. Yang Guang was deeply unhappy. He'd wanted to make friends with Shen Qiao and Yan Wushi, but news of the latter's whereabouts came and went, and even when they did meet, Yan Wushi never gave Yang Guang any face. Once, unable to contain himself, Yang Guang had gone and tattled to his parents. But he hadn't expected that the parents, who'd always indulged him, would react opposite to how they usually did. They didn't take his side, which left Yang Guang even more frustrated. As for Shen Qiao, Yang Guang had attempted to visit him several times. Each time, he'd been met with either the cold shoulder or polite rejection. Shen Qiao seemed wholly uninterested in associating with the Prince of Jin. Even if he remained courteous, he was also distant. For someone like Yang Guang, who is the pride of the heavens, this was undoubtedly equivalent to slapping him in the face multiple times. More than once, it made Yang Guang so furious that he'd returned to his sleeping quarters and smashed things. But this only made him even more unwilling to give up. I think he's relatively young. The way he's written, it sounds like he's probably like Prince, like 20-ish. But it never actually mentions how old he is. So I'd say 20-ish, maybe pushing 30-ish. His only consolation was that the Hanyue sect in Xuandu Mountain, while demonstrating no signs of accepting him, showed no intentions of growing close to the crown prince either. As he looked at Shen Qiao's handsome and gentle profile, Yang Guang felt somewhat defeated and resentful. Shen Qiao had saved his life, and Yang Guang knew it. That year, the traitor Chen Gong had held him hostage as he left the palace, and Shen Qiao had rescued him. But Yang Guang thought that his parents had given Xuandu Mountain enough over the years to repay the favor of Shen Qiao saving his life. So deep within his heart, Yang Guang actually held little gratitude toward Shen Qiao. More than anything else, this connection was an excuse to build a closer relationship, to pull Xuandu Mountain over to his side. Unfortunately, Shen Qiao was always the same, neither cold nor warm. It matched the distance that Xuandu Mountain kept from the Prince of Jin. Okay, so I guess maybe teenager, not even necessarily 20s. To answer your question, D. But it was one thing to think this. Yang Guang didn't dare reveal any trace of rudeness or disrespect in his expression. The perfected master is too modest. If we consider seniority within the Jianghu, Wushi is even your esteemed self's junior. It's a given that he should receive your guidance. However, if you're unwilling, we naturally can't force you. In a few days, it will be the Double Ninth Festival. I will also report to His Majesty that we'll be holding a banquet in the spare villa on Chuhua Mountain. Would the perfected master do us the honor of attending? This prince warmly welcomes you, naturally. Yeah, he definitely is acting like a spoiled brat. Now that he'd said this, he was afraid that Shen Qiao would think the venue too crowded and be unwilling to attend, so he made sure to add some more. The banquet won't have any unconcerned persons. There will only be famed literati from the schools of Taoism and Buddhism. We're following the example of the scholarly discussions from the Wei and Jin dynasties. It certainly won't be a lowbrow affair. Shen Qiao looked apologetic. It's most unfortunate. This Taoist is about to set out for Xuandu Mountain today. He fears that in a few days he'll be on Xuandu Mountain and hence unable to attend the banquet. He begs the Prince of Jin's forgiveness. Fury swept across Yang Guang's face, but he quickly recovered his smile and picked up his teacup and drank everything in one go. I was the one asking something impossible. The perfected master need not be so concerned. After Yang Guang and Yu Xiu left, someone spoke from behind the colonnade with a leisurely voice. You really offended him. So Shen Qiao didn't turn his head, but simply sipped a few mouthfuls of tea as he said, Sect leader Yan was cowering within his house like a turtle, so I was forced to play the villain. And Wushi laughed. Who made Taoist Master Shen so compassionate and kind? If I'd come out instead, that Yu Xiu probably wouldn't have even been able to leave the gates of Xuandu Monastery. Shen Qiao sent him a pointed look, but he said nothing. Yan Wushi bent at the waist and brushed his lips over the side of Shen Qiao's face, leaving a trail of heat from his breath in his wake, before he finally stopped at Shen Qiao's ear. This venerable one originally planned on returning to celebrate Qi Shi with you. I didn't make it in time, but at least I won't miss the winter solstice. Shen Qiao's face was a little red. It was unclear whether he had been warmed by Yan Wushi's breath or if he was blushing from shyness. Your trip was rather long this time. Yan Wushi gave a low chuckle and continued to tease him. So Taoist Master Shen missed me? Blasted by these words, Shen Qiao's face grew even redder. You know I wasn't asking about this. Then what were you asking about? Yan Wushi seemed to take great enjoyment in teasing him, and he also appeared very interested in Shen Qiao's ear. He took it into his mouth and refused to let go. He licked from the lobe to the shell until it was wet from his tongue all over. Ew. Shen Qiao had gone completely stiff, as if he'd been immobilized by a martial technique. He was unable to move at all. It just seems like a really elaborate wet willy. Yuck. It's like gross. I agree, Esri lady. He was unable to move at all. Did you, he arduously mobilized his willpower, enter the heart of the cognate? No, I went to go Goguryeo. Yan Wushi even rattled off a few sentences in fluent Goguryeo, and as his hands reached deep into certain unspeakable places, roaming freely about. Goguryeo? What did you go there for? Ginseng is plentiful there, so it's a trade location for Huanyue's sect. I passed through the eastern Khaganate on the way there, so I took the chance to look around. Duanwen Yang is currently doing quite well there. He's even been elevated by the Tulan Khagan, Yong Yulu. He's practically become Hulagu the second now. Shen Qiao shook his head. As his heart isn't on the martial path, he'll never become a second Hulagu. I find that monk Yu Xiu from earlier much more interesting. What? Said Yan Wushi. Is having me not enough for you? You want a monk too? Shen Qiao's face instantly flushed red, his mouth falling open as he stammered. He was angry and wanted to refute Yan Wushi, but he didn't know where to start. It made for a pitiful and lovable sight. Yan Wushi couldn't help but burst out laughing. He picked Shen Qiao right up like a princess and carried him inside. And with that, we finish for this week. We have 2 more streams before we will finish Thousand Autumn. So we will finish it next week, right before Valentine's Day. So you will have that ending and then a special fanfic on Saturday. That Saturday, Valentine's Day. And then we will begin Peerless on the next Tuesday. He is teasing him about doing a trio. Yes, D. Very much lots of suggestive little details, but we did not tiptoe over that line, so I'm not going to put any triggers. But yeah. Thank you. I plan to have an absolutely great birthday. You too. Yes. Good night, everyone. Thank you all for joining me. And for everyone watching later, I hope you enjoyed as well. Have a lovely night, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Oh, don't forget to vote, because then we'll know next week. Okay. Bye!